We return to Oilers Now with Bob Stauffer. Brought to you by Digitex, where oil country shops for printers and office equipment. Service is their business. On Oilers Radio, 630 CHED.
Welcome back, everybody. It is 1:33 in Edmonton. Bob Stauffer with you, Oilers Now. Do want to mention that Oilers Now presented by ATB Financial. For you entrepreneurs out there, start your business off on the right foot with ATB Financial's Startup Banking for Small Business Package. Call the Business Banking Center at 1-855-941-4912 or visit atb.com/startup to find more. Do want to mention the best pizza in the city, still making a great Royal Pizza. Multiple locations in Edmonton to serve you, including the original Royal Pizza in Old Strathcona. 45-plus years for Royal Pizza. Stauffer recommendation, the meat lovers at Royal Pizza. New locations in Newcastle and in Otwell and downtown on Jasper Avenue. RoyalPizza.ca. Stauffer and Spector. Specs pulling an extra 15 minutes for the fine folks at Horse Racing Alberta. Why, you ask? Because we have Bruce Bennett joining us right now. And Bruce is a hockey photographer, and he's put out a book called Hockey's Greatest Photos. Bruce, it's Bob Stauffer and Mark Spector. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, wait a second. You calling Bruce Bennett a hockey photographer is like calling Mike Farber a hockey writer or Cam Cole an everyday columnist. This guy's one of the very best there is. And if you see, what's the photo you're looking at? The one of Lafleur getting hip-checked by Potvin?
I have hated Danny Potvin for 30-plus years because
of that photo.
Because Guy Lafleur, more than 30 years. And Guy Lafleur is my favorite player of all time.
You remember taking that shot, Bruce?
Yes, I want Bob to know that Danny personally apologized for hitting Guy Lafleur.
I will say this right now. Guy Lafleur was the Oilers have Connor McDavid. There's been, Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby or Mario Lemieux. Guy Lafleur is in that pantheon in terms of dominant players that came out of junior. Danny Potvin thought he was in that pantheon, and Danny's a great defenseman. He's never apologized, Bruce, for anything in his life. We know that about Danny Potvin. Great player. It's a great shot. Brilliant of you to get it. Maybe first talk to us a bit about the concept for the book, Hockey's Greatest Photos.
Oh, thanks. Well, it was. I'm actually starting my 41st year shooting hockey photos, and it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago I started shopping around the idea of doing a book of my favorite photographs, and I just kept coming back to the hockey news. Those are guys I started with in 1974. I've loved every single one of those editors that they've had there. I've worked closely with them for all these years. And it was just a good collaborative effort with Jason Kay, their current editor, talking about the concept of the book and how photos might be separated in the book and what photos to use. And happy at this point that it's finally out there on the market.
Now, I'm looking at the website, and you've got, Gretzky and Mario Lemieux sitting behind the net after Gretzky scored that goal in 1987 at the Canada Cup. Yeah. I mean, there's too many for me to list here. The one that I've always found to be really cool is Lanny McDonald when he finally won a Stanley Cup in 1989 with the Flames. And he's got his head resting on that cup like it's his long-lost mother, and his eyes are closed, and he's got a look in his face that you can't even describe with words. How'd you get that shot? It's funny you bring up that photo, because you know how hard it is to sell a photograph of a guy with his eyes closed? Well, trying to make publishers and editors understand, you don't understand, that is the moment. That's what these guys live for. And in the locker room that year with Laney, he actually, part of it I think might have been a little bit of a photo op, because his eyes were closed, resting on the cup, and anyone who was there shot it. And he sat back for a second, he looked at the cup, and he put his head back on the cup and made for some more great photos of that. So, generally, I mean, we're not posing things. We're just shooting everything that happens in front of us and hoping it's properly exposed and in focus.
Bruce, my experience with photogs and camera guys, they are an eccentric lot. There's a little bit different personality, and there's something that comes. Is that fair? Do you think? Like
you're a very polite guy.
No, actually, I'm not.
No, he's not.
but I'm just wondering, like, how have the technical advances in that end of the industry change things, and how the new buildings maybe made it more, do you guys find yourself closer than ever before? I know there's the little holes that got caught out in the buildings for a couple of prominent camera locations for photographers, but how has that sort of evolved over the last 40 years of you doing the job?
Well, I guess obviously we started with film and moved on to digital cameras, which was definitely a step in the right direction. But in most hockey arenas, the great photo positions that we used to have, which was center ice or close to center ice or in the penalty boxes, where you were actually part of the game.
Yeah.
You could get hit from any angle, but you also had a vantage point where you could actually see the entire ice surface. Now we're shooting through holes in the corners in most arenas that are 4.5 by 5.5 inches, extremely limited, and a lot of the photo opportunities that we've had in the past have just gone by the wayside. So photographers have, come up with many different things, such as using remote cameras. I do use remote cameras quite often. But trying to ensure that not only are we getting the image, but anything historic that might happen would be within our grasp. Even if we can't see it from our own camera, maybe we can see them from a series of remote cameras placed in the arenas.
Well, I mean, this will be the coffee table book for hockey lovers this Christmas. There's some beautiful shots here. I'm looking at one, and I want to ask you this, because I've been a newspaper man since, about 85 here, and work with a lot of different shooters. One of the really cool shots you have here is Sid Crosby in 2010 scoring that golden goal on Ryan Miller. But it is from a remote camera that's clearly in the rafters up at Rogers Place in Vancouver. So I'm just thinking this through, Bruce. You're somewhere else, basically just pushing the trigger on this shot. As a guy that's taken a lot of really cool shots in your life, is there a different measure of pride with a shot that's taken by a remote camera? Do you love that shot any more or less than the one that you catch in open ice of Denny Potvin drilling Guy Lafleur? Is there a difference for you?
Oh, definitely a difference. On one hand, it's always a thrill going through looking at all the photos that come out of a remote camera, because it's like a surprise.
Yeah, you don't know
what you really have until you look through to see whether you capture that moment. The strange thing about the Vancouver goal was that the Olympic rule is that 10 minutes before the play, which basically could be regulation or it could be overtime, so basically 10 minutes into the third period, all the photographers are going on the ice, need to line up in the Zamboni corner to be ushered out onto the ice. And so the last 10 minutes of that game, I was either standing in the Zamboni corner or kneeling in the Zamboni corner, trying to look up the scoreboard and pushing the button for a series of remote cameras, hoping that I would be able to capture, the winning moment on one of those cameras. And it wasn't until probably an hour or two after the game where the editors who were working on that material said, I think we got a winner here.
Is that right?
That's awesome.
Cool. I had no idea. But, you're shooting at 10 frames a second on those remote cameras. They're pre-focused. The skill level is there in setting up those cameras and thinking about the angles, and that's a function of experience, which obviously that's my strong suit, is my experience. But there's nothing better than shooting. There's a greater feeling of satisfaction when you're hand-holding that camera and actually shooting action and capturing something great.
Bruce Bennett has been our guest. The book is called Hockey's Greatest Photos. Bruce, when it's already out, right?
Yep, it's best place really is on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. But I know up in Canada it's in a lot of bookstores up there. Unfortunately, we haven't been as lucky here in the U.S. from what I've heard.
All right, best of luck with it. Thank you for your time, Bruce.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's Bruce Bennett. Bob Stauffer, Mark Spector with you. We're going to go to This Day in Oilers History, brought to you by New West Travel. Join Oilers now to 2 great road trips to see Pittsburgh and Toronto this November. For details, go to newwesttravel.com.